You probably think that being an analytics consultant just means dashboards, bunch of data reports, and client strategy. But here's what it actually looks like. Slack emergencies, 90-minute calls that go anywhere and you're repeating the same topic you have talked about before, quiet wins that no one really notices. Perhaps you prevented this major bug from derailing the entire website. After 15 years and 100 plus clients in a row, I'll show you what it's really like beyond the LinkedIn highlight reel. So if you're eyeing this path or simply wondering what growth might look like after your first data role, then this is the video for you. Let's jump right in. Hello everyone, my name is Ruben. I have published 2 commercial books and helped 100 plus organizations with their data stacks. And on this channel, I show you how to do the same through practical tutorials and smart strategy. Let's dive into the video. Let's start with my current role. Now, I've done many things over the past 15 years on different projects, different engagements. Right now, I actually work primarily with one agency. It's called Magog.io. Here's the website. You should check us out if you're looking for MarTech help. And we, of course, work across multiple clients. We're a small team right now, about 12, 15 people. And I'm one of the senior analytics consultants. I typically work between 3 and 5 projects at any given time, depending on how busy or slow the season might be. And my role is half strategy, half execution. So perhaps working with clients to define what we need to do. And of course, then going out and doing that implementation. We're a fully remote team with clients in North America and Europe and sometimes elsewhere. And we work primarily with the sort of standard marketing technology tools out there, Segment.com, Mixpanel, Amplitude, BigQuery data warehouses. We tend to do kind of complex MarTech setups for bigger companies who need not just the technical help, but they need someone to kind of spearhead that project through the organization. And of course, we need to do that quickly compared to perhaps trying to do it in-house. Now, on an average day, I work kind of regular hours. I start about 8 a.m. my time, Pacific time, and I tend to be finished between 2 and 4 p.m. Again, depending on how much stuff is going on in any given day, any given week. We have a busy period towards the fall into the winter, as you can imagine. Anything around that Black Friday, Boxing Day, Christmas type period tends to be quite busy. And then outside of that, it slows down a little bit as you go into summer and then picks back up. And it kind of aligns also naturally with the way companies think about budgets, where the summer might be a naturally slow period and it starts to build back up and then slow down and so on. All my work, of course, happens in Trello, Slack, email. We have Zoom for calls. I do between 5 and 10 hours of meetings every week of different ranges between 30 and 60 minutes. About half are internal and maybe the other half are with clients. I would say in this agency, emergencies are rare. They don't happen every week. It might just happen like once or twice a month. So a lot of the work is already pre-planned. We can go through it calmly, deliberately. We have typically big chunks of time to do deep work to be able to tackle the actual problems correctly when we think about the implementation. So it's some of the many things I like about this particular role. Now, some of the typical tasks that I'll be going through, again, in any engagement, there might be some strategy set in at the very top, trying to find what to do, how to approach it, to build a roadmap for what we want to do. There's, of course, project management, which in our case happens in Trello. Be able to build out the task, as we call them, sort of groom them out. What is the actual scope of work, whether I do that task myself or I have to hand it off to someone. That grooming out is critical as it outlines the context. Then, of course, we have to go back and forth as we're going through the task, as the scope might change. And again, all that happens in Trello. We spend a lot of time in Trello, which helps reduce the number of internal meetings, because at any given time, as long as you say, like, what's the latest on this one task, you go to Trello. Everyone knows that that's where you post your comments, videos, replies, anything kind of goes in Trello. Slack is meant to support it, but Trello is kind of where the heart of things live. And of course, there's actually implementation work. So this might be the actual development of the Google Tag Manager, Segment.com, Mixpanel. There might be some code that may need to be written. In my case, primarily sort of JavaScript, SQL. We do some Python and some things like that in the backend, but they're not heavy software development roles as you may expect. We have partner collaborations. We work very closely with companies like Segment.com, Amplitude, Mixpanel, Braze, just to make sure we're aligned. Some of these engagements can be quite large for them and for us. So there is some partner communication that's needed to make sure that we are delivering what the client expects. And of course, the actual client deliverables, to have a specific dashboard or to solve marketing attribution or to have accurate numbers on marketing campaigns, whatever it may be. Those, of course, are the things that we are ultimately responsible for. Once an engagement ends, there is, of course, a conversation of a renewal or expansion, trying to continue the work that we're doing or look for new opportunities. So those are like the typical tasks that we might have. An engagement might go from 3 to 6 months. Some engagements are just ongoing. So every month we're always looking for new opportunities to work on. And those are nice because then you can start to build a long-term relationship. And the ones that are maybe at the fixed 3 months, we're trying to think, do we want to keep working with this client? If yes, what else could we do with them? If we don't want to keep working with them, then we need to sort of sunset and transition them out, which does happen. We do think internally a lot of what is sort of the ideal client, one where we can have an impact, where we enjoy the work, and where the client can benefit. Now, some of the parts you don't see, context switching is real. You have to really work to diminish it. That is, because it's multiple clients at any given time, multiple tasks, it's very easy to just be switching back and forth between Twitter and Slack and not actually get deep work done. So it's something we think about where we time chunk our days, we block them out and say, okay, this 2-hour block is just for this one client and this one task, and let's try to work through completely. Slack, our culture is that, you're not expected to respond within a few minutes. Within a few hours is probably fine, which then allows you to close Slack, at least I do, to close Trello and just take a task on for 30, 60, 90 minutes, come back, do another task, and then maybe check Slack 2-3 times a day. And of course, our meetings are pre-scheduled. You're not going to have a last-minute meeting. Very rarely. We like to plan things out for 2-3 few days, honestly, even a couple weeks in advance, where we have our syncs that are already scheduled. So all of this, I think, contributes to try to reduce context switching. But even then, you have to prevent yourself from switching context all the time. Not a lot of it is sexy. People might think this is all like building dashboards and so on, but honestly, a lot of it is just cleaning data, structuring it, trying to get the data into the right place, and then the actual building of the dashboards, building the market attribution reports, all that kind of stuff is actually kind of straightforward once you've done a lot of the heavy lifting of making sure the data makes sense. And of course, the last thing that you might not see is there's a lot of things that break. Something just breaks for multiple reasons. It may be nobody's fault, but there's a lot of sort of breaking of like this pipeline we built broke, now we need to fix it, or this code no longer works. Some of the less sort of sexy elements, you might not see day to day. How I get paid? I'm a contractor. Of course, I'm based out of Vancouver, Canada. Many of you likely know that here in the channel. So I work as a US agency, as a contractor, as a choice of an employee. I get paid on an hourly basis. It averages out to about $100 US an hour. Again, it kind of varies a little bit depending on the engagement, how much work I do. I tend to aim for about 25 hours a week of work. There's probably room to a little bit more during the busy periods, and during the slow periods, it kind of comes down a little bit. And then, of course, I spend some of my other work time on the YouTube channel itself, making videos like this one. So those are kind of like my 2 work gigs at the moment. It's nice to just have a single client. In my case, I sort of think of a single agency client and then multiple clients are there, instead of, I had periods where I've been working with 4, 5, 6 different clients altogether, just myself trying to manage it. There's a nice change of pace right now, and we get to work on really cool projects. Is this the right career for you? Well, it depends. First, if you enjoy problem solving, you'll definitely like it. There's lots of ways of trying to figure out what is the right way to approach a problem, the right solution. Here are the constraints around budget. And of course, you didn't have to persuade people in the organization to figure out if that is actually the right way to approach it. So as a problem solver perspective, it's fantastic. 2, the skill itself of marketing technology, data analysis, I think is highly valued. It will most likely always be highly valued, even in the next 10, 20 years. Even the role of AI, which maybe change how the work gets done. And we see this, I use something like ChatGPT every day in my work. It doesn't diminish the work, it just changes it. So some of the lower level work of data analysis, cleaning files, I think will become easier. But then the people elements of how you present data, how you get a group of people to buy into a project will always be there. It's something that AI may not really limit. Now, if you want something that's just sort of hands-on, deep work, this is probably not for you. There's a lot of context switching. You have to go between projects, between different people, even though it doesn't feel there's a lot of meetings, 5 or 10 hours. For some people, it may be a lot. Obviously, some other roles have even more meetings. But from a just behind the scenes keyboard role, you might be better off in a more software development role where you will be working just on problems 8 hours a day with very minimal meetings, maybe only like 1 hour, 2 hours a week. This kind of role might be too draining from that perspective. Finally, as a pro, you get to see lots of different projects, lots of different industries and verticals. So I think it's kind of fun. You may do this for a few years and then maybe dive deeper into a specific vertical. You might say, hey, I really like healthcare, so let me go just into an actual hospital or healthcare organization and just completely dive deep into that world. So again, pros and cons, depending on what you want to do. But I think building the skills here that gives you lots of flexibility for other things, whether you want to be 100% remote or partial remote, or you want to do mostly hands-on keyboard, or try to be more front-facing client roles, whatever it may be, you kind of get those choices. Now, if you're exploring analytics and just MarTech as a career, then this next video may be just exactly what you need. It can give you some of the initial steps and help you avoid 5 early career mistakes I have seen with other people, and of course, I have seen with myself. The video will help help you avoid getting stuck in the wrong role, in the wrong team, or just perhaps working with the wrong tools. My name is Ruben, and I'll see you in the next video.